Welcome to Einstein's disease. Through real-world insights and powerful conversations with industry leaders, we help you break past limitations and rethink success. Are you ready to push the boundaries of what's possible?
Good evening. This is Greg Ellers, host of Einstein's Disease, where each and every week we come to you discussing a problem that is prevalent in society, prevalent in a business, or prevalent in your personal life. And our guests and ourselves, we provide you with solutions to some of those problems or a different lens to look through. Today, we are fortunate to have a good and longstanding friend of mine, Andy Lees. Andy is the partner in Macro Strategies Partnership and the author of The Corruption of Government, a best-selling book in England. Andy, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
So, Andy, you and I talk fairly frequently about a lot of different things in the world. We've had different lenses at times, and a lot of fun. And our friendship has been something that I truly cherish. But today, in the last few months, we've really been talking about the misallocation of capital, and in many senses, it can be described as corruption within the way that the United States government and governments around the world following the United States are really doing a disservice not only to their citizens, but their fiduciary responsibility to help economic growth manifest itself in a method that is higher in productivity, providing people a much greater opportunity to make money. So what I want to do is spend this first segment here with you and give you the opportunity to really share some of the thesis and things that you study as a world-renowned economist regarding some of this misallocation in capital and where that it's gone on for a long time, but it's really accelerated, hasn't it, Andy, over the last 5 to 7 years, and where it's taken us and what it's doing to society as a whole. So I'm going to leave that broad, open-ended question to you, Andy, and let you give it a go.
Okay, well, this has been going on for a very long time. I mean, decades. In the UK's case, well over 100 years. I mean, it's a major problem. And it comes down to basically one simple thing: government. Government is the problem. There's just no question about this. What you have is you've got to understand that there's a real world cost to everything. If you understand that everything must create the utility to pay for itself, otherwise it's at the expense of capital destruction, then you're halfway there to understanding what the situation is. So once you've got that, I've said that there's a real cost to everything. Well, what is that cost? Ultimately, it's energy. Everything that we do, every aspect of GDP is just an energy conversion. 100% of GDP can be explained by energy. Now, that will sound strange to people in our industry because people will say, no, it's not, it's 5 or 6% of GDP. No, that is the cost of getting energy, getting fossil fuels or some sort of equivalent out of the ground. Then on the surface, it's just lumps of coal, barrels of oil. You still got to release the energy from that. So if we look at GDP, we'll describe it as, steel production, car production, making computers, operating computers, travel, etc. That's one way of looking at it. That's one side of the ledger. But what are all those things doing? They're effectively energy conversions. Each one of those is basically being powered by an energy conversion. So 100% of GDP can be explained by energy. If we just took all the fossil fuels out of the ground and just burnt them, then we wouldn't have any ability to produce any more fossil fuels, find any more, etc. So all of GDP is basically about energy production and maintaining that energy production. So this brings us to the important aspect. If we know that, then we can turn to physics to understand how society should work, what the laws of physics effectively tell us. And it comes down to a law called, it's Howard T. Odum's fifth law of thermodynamics. And it says that energy flows follow a transformation hierarchy. productivity hierarchy. So each level of transformity, which is the quality of work that energy can do, is equal to the amount of energy that's effectively embedded within that capital stock, etc. So if you think about it, if you think about a technology, an advanced technology, the further downstream it is, so the more processes that have gone into its production, the more energy, therefore, energy conversions have gone into its production. So therefore, it must be more productive to pay for those upstream energy conversions.
So
that's the
if we
vital aspect to understand.
right,
Once
so
you understand, sorry?
if you so to take that to our viewers who are watching and they have a manufacturing company, a roofing company, they own a business. They're very close to the energy transformation in the sense that their business is productive based upon what they do each day. Whereas other larger businesses or organizations require more energy and they may not see that output for months or days or years.
Well, I mean, it's in my opinion, it's to do with, as I say, how far upstream, how far downstream the process is. So steel production is obviously very close to, it's not far downstream. It's very simple. So you've got a clear energy transformation going into that. But what about making computers? Within that, you've had plastics created, you've had all these coppers created, etc., combined, and all of these work processes are themselves energy conversions, aren't they?
Yeah.
Everything that we do is an energy conversion. So the further downstream you are, the more energy conversions have gone into that process. So the more productive you've got to be to pay for all those upstream energy conversions. So this sets the system up to be what's called a trophic pyramid, or what I call a productive natural hierarchy. It's the same as nature. If you think of nature, you've got the sun coming onto the earth. From there, that then through precipitation cycles, which is again energy embedded within fresh water, creates trees and agriculture, etc. That covers the surface of the earth, but there's obviously not as much of that as there is energy coming in. Then you've got herbivores, fewer herbivores, which eat that stuff. Then you've got meat eaters, which eat that stuff, and fewer apex predators again. So you've got this natural productive hierarchy. And this is the only way that the system pays for the energy within itself. Any other way is not creating the utility to pay for itself. It's not creating the utility to pay for the upstream energy within its own production. So the system basically starts to collapse. So
and that collapse, Andy, if we can take it to the point of government and to the point of lack of productivity.
So if you think about this, what's holding that system away from that? Again, let's keep it in the laws of physics just for a moment. Gravity, if you imagine gravity, you can't defy it other than with a localized energy source, a localized order. So you can hold a rock up from gravity with some kind of other force. This is what we're doing with government. Government is that force that keeping the system away from aligning to the laws of physics by misallocating capital. That's all government does. So we can go through that in more detail, but we can also look at it a slightly different way. Let's strip out the energy aspect and let's just look at it in terms of the what's it called? The sort of whole profile of politics. On the left-hand side, we have left-wing government is big government, what's known as constructive rationalism. The right-wing side is small government, what's known as critical rationalism. Now, Critical rationalism means the system is clearing to the real world, to that reality. It's discovering prices. It's in a way like the scientific method, clearing to truth. The constructivist method, the left-wing side, is clearing of truth to a government-created ideology. So it's corrupting the system. There's just no way around this. So if you look at far right on that political spectrum, far right is obviously means, I would say, the Wild West, as it were. So you can't have that. You've got to have some sort of rule of law to stop it being corrupted. So what is the rule of law? The rule of law, this is hugely important, is that which comes about by common consent. It's not the rule of legislation. That's very different. It's that which comes about by common consent. So in that political spectrum, the rule of law is where everyone can agree, which is effectively where the system will optimize itself. Any corruption, i.e. people denying that rule of law and, you killing me, etc., on the far right, clearly that corrupts the system. Likewise, though, any movement onto the left of that, any government beyond the rule of law, is a corruption of the system. It is allocating capital other than what the common person wants. It's allocating capital for the majority or the minority, but in doing so, it's discriminating, it's imposing price, and it's creating a manufactured truth. And that is the problem. In doing that, it's moving away from the real world costs, real world values to its own manufactured value. And that is the problem.
So if we bring this as we kind of begin to close out this segment, if we think about this, what you've described is the essence of a perfect economy and a perfect structure.
Yes.
And then the misallocation that's taken place due to policies that may benefit an ideology or may it benefit a group. And we're experiencing now a pendulum shift, and that we're going to talk about extensively in the next segment, where government leaders, people that have been elected, are trying to reduce the amount of misallocated capital that was through legislation or through executive order that's put our country in a position where there's been such a high level of misallocated capital generating multi-trillion-dollar deficits with very little to show for it other than a bit of economic data that doesn't demonstrate the misallocation.
It's not just the deficits, Greg, that's important. It's the fact that this has resulted in any allocation of capital other than in accordance with the utility it creates is at the expense of capital.
Right.
That's basically at the expense of you're borrowing growth from the future because you're destroying your ability to produce. So you look at GDP growth, it's been trending down for decades and decades. That is the problem.
Right.
The debt rising relative to GDP is one reflection of that, but it's been falling anyway, irrespective of that. And this goes back, to the sort of, the 50s and 60s, the US was still booming. But beyond then, you've seen real GDP growth slump. And over in Europe, it's just what's happened is that misallocation of capital has been a loss of capital, but it's been an opportunity cost so far of slower growth in the US. Here we've got to the point now where the loss of capital is so big that it's now a loss of real output.
Yeah,
so we've gone through that tipping point.
So we're gonna cut off here and let our sponsors share their insights in terms of what they do, and I'll be back shortly with Andy for the second segment of Einstein's disease tonight, which is really going to delve into the misallocation of capital we have been seeing, and as it comes out of the system, what that means for you, the business owner, the employer, and where the opportunities might lie. And with that, we'll be back shortly. Thank you very much. Thanks, Andy. We'll see you in a minute.
Break past limitations and rethink success. Are you ready to push the boundaries of what's possible?